What's up, world? We are back with another episode of the All Things House podcast. Tonight, we have another DJ slash producer slash label owner from Seattle, my homeboy, Toney H. What's up, bro? How you doing?
What's going on, man?
Nothing much,
another
man.
day.
Yeah, I feel you. How's the weather up there?
I mean, nice for now. We got
Yep.
about another week probably before it's not the business anymore.
So it's like getting rain season or something like
Starts to
that, I
get
guess?
gloomy, cloudy, rainy. So I'm trying to squeeze every little bit right now.
Yeah, I feel you, bro. It's super. When I say super hot down here, it's like 95 degrees. Now, that may not sound hot to most people around the country.
Send that over here.
Yeah, I feel you. But it doesn't get like that over here because I'm in San Diego. It just doesn't do it. And then when it does, it's like everybody shuts down. It's just too hot.
That's like when it snows in Seattle. Everybody doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All right, bro. So let's get into it, man. So like I say, you're from Seattle. Let everybody know kind of your musical beginnings.
Oof. All right. So 2006, I'm back in Panama. So I'm originally from Panama City, Panama, Central America. So I'm 2006, starting high school, big old school hip hop, R&B, jazz head because of my family, my mom and dad were into that.
Yeah.
So I get to the school, all I'm listening to is hip hop on the bus at school. 2007, my friends are just like, yo, you got to listen to this guy, Fetty Legrand and Carl Cox. And I'm like, all right, wasn't listening to house like that at all. Not even a little bit. And I'm like, all right. So I'm listening to Ministry of Sound mixes.
Damn.
I'm listening to all their old mixes from them. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm into this. So they started inviting me out to parties. We're listening to that. DJ Chucky was really big at that time in the electro house scene, Afrojack. So I'm listening to all that stuff, 2007. And then 2008, I learned about Felix the House Cat.
Yeah.
I'm listening to Todd Terry. So that was kind of the beginning. 2007, 2008 was my intro to house. And it was really because of my friends. I was not that I was stubborn, but I was just I love old school hip hop and R&B, and I love jazz, and I'm I love this. So
why not?
Whatever.
Right?
I'm good.
Exactly.
They gave me this music, and I'm like, all right, I'll listen to it. What's the hurt, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And that was my first 4 or 5 DJs that I was listening to was pretty much them. A lot of Carl Cox for sure.
So in the beginning, when it was mostly hip hop, who was some of the influences around that time?
Ooh. So Naughty by Nature.
Okay.
Biggie, Tupac, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
Ice Cube. A lot of stuff that I probably shouldn't have been.
Yeah, for sure.
But my dad, my mom be like, you can't listen to that. My dad, on the side, be like,
yeah,
listen to
yeah, for sure. That's dope.
a lot of NWA.
Yeah.
And then on the R&B tip, it was more and that was more like my mom, Whitney Houston, Anita Baker, Aretha Franklin, a lot of soulful
R&B.
Yeah. And then a lot of old school, a lot of Motown, James Brown, Marvin Gaye, just a lot of that stuff too. So a good mixed bag of just no house.
Yeah, I feel, and a lot of friends of mine, they didn't really like house growing up, but they liked R&B. So they liked house, now because of the soulful lyrics and stuff like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And,
so it kind of matches.
And on top of that, now a lot of producers are incorporating a lot of the songs from back then anyway. So
exactly.
It's a lot of familiarity.
It's perfect. Yeah. So when you kind of discovered house, and the Carl Coxes of the world, from then, when did you try to become a DJ?
So it took a couple years. So when I first got to Panama, I saw Panama at the time didn't really have age restrictions on kind of being at the club and partying. Just
for real?
No, not at all. I was 17. When
okay.
So at the time I was when I got into the club scene, I was 17.
Okay.
And I was started as a club promoter. So I was promoting for a bunch of clubs in downtown Panama, on a bunch of teams. And our very first party, our very first big booking was Dead Mouse.
Oh shit.
Before we even had the cool metalheads, had the the hot one. We booked them out in one of these islands that we have out there, and that was like my first big show I was a part of. We did a lot of shows. We brought Chucky, we brought Laid Back Luke.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, we had a great team, a lot of DJs. It wasn't until kind of like 2000, end of 2007, maybe beginning of 2008, my friends would throw house parties, and I was the kid with the iPod.
Oh, perfect.
So I always bringing the iPod, always sitting by the radio, making sure the next song was right. And I was playing all kinds of stuff. You know, at the time, reggaeton was a big thing in Panama. House, of course, hip hop, but of course, also picking songs that my friends knew and not like the deep cuts of the CDs. Like, you know, so it's like all the hits in the club. So that was like, I call it, that was like my intro to DJing, because like I was the iPod kid, just like sitting by the radio.
Yeah.
And then kind of like about a year and a half later, I started working at this hostel. And I used to play music for the guests upstairs, and the owners at the hostel was called Luna's Castle, which no longer is in Panama now, but at the time was a very popular hostel.
Okay.
And one of the owners was just like, "Do you want to DJ downstairs?" And I'm like, I don't got no gear, like, but I was like, "All right, give me like a month, I'll save up and like buy a controller." So I got my first controller was a Newmark Total Control, I think is what it was called. It was like the size of my hand, pretty much. But it worked. It was great. It was like when virtual DJ was a thing.
Yeah.
I had my laptop, downloaded that, and I used to do Wednesday nights at the hostel. So that was like my real intro. Was like 2009, 2010 to DJing. Like in a
public.
bar.
Yeah.
Public, like something, not in front of my friends at least, and just in front of strangers.
Yeah.
So that was like my real intro.
So when did it kind of become serious?
Probably like a year into it. My friends were just like, "Yo, like come practice like on CDJs, come practice on like our decks."
Yeah.
And since I was already club promoting, I could kind of low key, high key plug myself into
True.
it. So I used to open for a lot of the parties, like be the first person like to play the shows. I think Pure Lounge was my first like club gig in downtown Panama. Had a great time, and like I love kind of like just introducing people to music. Yeah, in a way that like I hadn't before. Yeah. Because I like for my friends, it was like, I had to play all the songs they knew, because otherwise they'd just be like, "Yo, what?" Like they're trying to dance, they're trying to party, so they don't want to hear some stuff they don't know. Yeah. But at the club, I was like, well, I can play the D cuts, and like people will dance, especially like with house music. Like it's just all about, you know, vibes and how people are feeling. So
for sure.
Yeah. Like about a year after is when I got serious, where I was like, all right, like I'm gonna practice now and like build my library, like learn a bunch of DJs, like figure out what I want to play. Because like when I first started, electro house was the thing, so it was a lot of Afrojack and DJ Chucky in my set.
Yeah, that was right around, I mean, guess the boom of EDM, right? Basically. Yeah. So you see that's kind of like when I got in the game too, like around 2012. It's like a little after you, but I got the tail end of all that stuff. So
like that's when like EDC and Ultra were still cool.
Exactly. So when you were doing those like those warm up sets for that first year, what type of good like warm up knowledge did you learn? How to work a room, how to do this, how to do that?
Honestly, I didn't. I didn't have the knowledge.
That's honest.
Like, yeah, to be real, I didn't. I just thought like, I was like, I got these tracks. I just want to play them. Yeah. And I just remember like maybe like my second club set, because my first club set, it was like nobody was there. It was like just like me and like two people. So like no one had anything to say about like my set. But like the second set, my homies came through. And it was like, "Yo, Toney, like you're playing like the 9 o'clock slot. You could not come out the gates. You could not come out the gates like this." I'm like, "What do you mean? Like it's an electro house night? Like I can't." He's like, "You can, but you got to find like you got to kind of come in with the warm up deep house, like kind of lower energy." I was like, "Oh, okay, like I get it." Yeah. So now I was like, "All right, I got to do my homework for real." Exactly. And that's when I really got into like listening to DJ sets, trying to figure out like, okay, like this DJ played a 9 o'clock set. Like, what did he play? Like, same kind of style, but like lower energy. I'm like, all right, so I can play high energy, but I gotta wait, 45 minutes into my set and kind of close out with that for the next DJ to like be set up right.
Exactly.
So like my first couple sets, it's like disaster.
But I mean, at least you learned, a couple sets in, not years later. You know what I mean?
But true. I mean, I've always like, I like to think that I've always like surrounded myself with friends that are honest with me and like not trying to blow smoke up my butt. So I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like, tell me if it sucks.
yeah, yeah.
So that I can like practice. And I've always like I played basketball growing up too, so it was like all about like I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to listen. So I'm just like, yo, tell me what was wrong. So like if I want to do this for real, like I don't want to get booted out of the circuit before I even got started.
Exactly, man. And that's the best mentality to have, man. That's what I tell people all the time. I tell people to be a sponge,
Yep.
to learn from your mistakes and try not to do it again. I mean, obviously we're all not, perfect at everything, but just
Right.
try to learn and go back and learn stuff from the beginning, because that will
Yep.
help you now for sure. For
Absolutely.
sure, for sure. So when did you make the transition from Panama to Seattle?
So kind of a journey.
Yeah.
So my dad was in the military growing up,
Okay.
so moved a lot in between.
Hmm.
But so I lived in Florida and Virginia for a while, kind of in between that time and before.
Yeah.
And then from Panama, I moved to Alaska.
Oh.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah.
That was rough. And I
Yeah.
moved to Alaska in the peak of wintertime.
Mm.
So like it was not the move. But my,
Uh,
my family was up there and I was trying to move back with family for a minute. So
yeah.
moved back up there, or I moved up there with them for about 4.5 years. Kind of did the DJing thing up there. That was like a wedding DJ. Oh, so I like in Alaska at the time, at least like before I like kind of started other things,
Hmm.
there was no house scene really.
Okay.
It was like EDM, like a like small 5% pocket, and everything else was just club open format. So I was like, all right, like now I'm here, I can't play house. Now I got to teach myself open format.
Yeah.
And I met two really good DJs, DJ 5050 up there and Decibel Outlaw, were like the two, like, and they were like old heads. They were like way older than me, but like I just like was drawn to them. I like went and saw them play to places. I'm like, all right, like I'm gonna introduce myself, like tell them what I'm about, and like what's the
Yeah.
worst that can happen. So I met them and I was like, yo, like I moved here now, I play house, but I see the vibe is not that here. So like like help me. So I like they taught me, how to spin and play an open format set, and how to start the night and how to end the night, and
I still.
peak hour hip hop tracks, and don't play this when people are riled up, and like all and kind of just like
Yeah.
kind of the run. So
Yeah.
so then I got some gigs out there just doing like top 40 gigs for a while
Hmm.
before like finding people to like kind of dive in back to the EDM scene. But then from Alaska, I moved to Seattle right after that. After a couple of visits to Seattle and seeing how the house scene was here, I was like, all right,
You hooked.
this is where I need to be.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And what year was that?
That I moved to Seattle in 2016.
16. Okay, so about almost going on 6 years
Yeah,
now.
almost 2 years. Yep.
Nice, nice. So now when you moved there, you said you got almost like in like amazed of the scene. Kind of what was the scene like at that time? Was it more club? Was it more out in the woods somewhere, like underground? Like where were you at
So
mostly?
when I moved to Seattle, so one of my really good friends, my group is from here. So I used to come and visit every summer with him
Okay,
and stay with his family. And so the scene, a lot of club gigs, a
okay,
lot
yeah,
of club gigs, but like the club gigs didn't really feel like club, like not what I was used to, like from coming from Alaska
hmm,
and seeing like a club gig there was like you're playing a top 40 hip hop, EDM, trap kind of set, kind of mixed in all at once. There was like I went to venues and it was like, oh, this is a house night, and people are out for it. They're
yeah,
buying tickets, they're here for it. Um, so like that's what it was more like. Now that I've been here for years, like now there's club gigs, there's things out in the woods. You drive out a couple hours, and there's things up in other cities.
hmm,
So a good mixture of things now that I've been here, but like at the time it was like I was just going to clubs and just seeing what the vibe was like before I like made the leap over.
Did you was it more like local artists that you were seeing, or was it people from like other like touring DJs?
Mostly local. We did come down and visit for a couple, like Shiba San,
Okay,
like a big I'm super into his music, so we came and saw him, Young Marco, Julio Bashmore,
okay,
a couple people that we saw, but it was mostly a lot of locals.
okay, good, good, good. So the scene at that time was pretty thriving, we'll say.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For
For
sure.
sure.
Hell yeah, that's
For sure.
dope. So when you got there, got in the scene, how long did it take you to like get in the scene and like start making friends and DJing? But because I know you said that your friends down on there already. Did he kind of introduce you to people and all that stuff?
So he wasn't so because he works, I mean, full time and kind of is doing his like life
Okay,
situation. Like he's not he wasn't tapped in at the time with like the house scene.
okay,
So like one thing I've always done before moving somewhere, especially if it was for music, I would always reach out to people and just be like, yo, my name's Toney. I run these labels. I'm visiting, would love to like just meet and just, just chat and
Just
just like
kick
get
it.
to know you.
Yeah.
So I did that every summer as I was coming and just met more and more people. So by the time I got here, people knew who I was.
Hmm.
They hadn't heard me DJ, but they knew like, okay, Tony's the guy that plays house. He runs these labels. He's now living here. Like, all right, cool. So I knew some people, and then got connected with this label Viva Recordings that I'd released on.
Okay.
And so they booked me for some shows, brought me on as a resident. So I mean, it took me maybe 6 months to a year, but like once that year mark hit, like I was fully in the scene.
Okay. Well, let's rewind a little bit. You mentioned that you were making music and put music out. What year did that start?
So I started producing in 2013, and my first release was also in 2013.
Oh, okay, cool. So you released from Alaska?
Yeah, I was still in Alaska. Yeah.
Oh, dope.
Yep, still in Alaska. I was just out, like, I was. It was one of those things where I was like, started off on. I think I started off on Fruity Loop.
Fruity Loops, FL.
Yeah, I think I started
Yeah.
off on Fruity Loop, and then I got tired of just using window products, so I
Mhm.
moved back and then went to GarageBand. Didn't like that, and I was like, honestly, I was getting ready to give up. I was like, you know what, maybe music stopped. Like, production's not for me. I'll just stick to DJing, and like, I was working full time, so I was like, I'll just work and DJ, and like, I'll just be chilling.
Yeah.
Met this kid Nick, and he's like, "Yo, have you heard of Ableton? You need to try it." Went to his house. He like gave me like a couple tutorials over some time that we were like hanging out, and I was like, "All right, like I could get into this." Got Ableton, and it was pretty much a wrap from then. I was like, I've been on Ableton ever since.
Damn, that's dope, man. That's dope. That's super fire. Once again, man. I mean, it sounds like you really know how to surround yourself with good, helpful people, man. That's definitely a plus for
I've
sure.
tried.
Yeah.
I've tried my hardest, and it doesn't mean it's always worked out that
Yeah,
way.
for sure.
It's always people that you're like, all right, like this
Yeah.
didn't work out that well.
Yeah.
but
But
for the most part,
but I
I'm
mean, the
doing
ones
great.
the ones that have worked out seem pretty pivotal, you know?
Oh, for sure, for sure. And still friends to this day.
Yeah, for sure. So, and also you mentioned that you created the label around that time too?
So the first label, I run two labels. The first label was Night Munchies, which I started in 2015.
15, okay.
Which is like that's my baby. That's
Yeah.
that's the main label. And then in 2019, I started like its sister label, Munchies After Dark.
Okay. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
For-
The first one started off in Alaska.
The first question I have, how did you get that name?
So
That's a catchy name.
So funny story. So initially it started off as a mix. I just wanted to make mixes. Like I wanted to make house mixes. So like while I was in Alaska, so people would know like, oh, like I play house and this is what I want to do while I'm here.
Yeah.
So like Late Night Munchies mix 1, 2, like et cetera, et cetera. And it like I kind of got tired of making those mixes and like it wasn't really sticking the way I wanted to. So I like anytime I have an idea, I always kind of like table it, but I don't trash it. So
Yeah.
you know what? Like this might be good for something else, or maybe it won't be. Like, or maybe I'll pass it off to somebody else and they can use it for something.
Mhm.
And so one day I was in my house, just had eaten some edibles, high, eating a bunch of candy, and I was like, man, I had that Late Night Munchies idea. What if I just started a label with that same name? And at that time, like I had a bunch of like a good amount of friends that like were producers but didn't really know how to navigate to get their music on like Spotify or Beatport. So I'm like, yo, like I could be that person for them. And they were already friends. So I'm like, yo, send me your music. I'm going to start this label. That's kind of how it started. It was like, yo, give me your music. I'm going to figure it out. And so I did. And then here we are 7 years later.
Fuck, man. That's a dope story, bro.
Yeah.
That's dope.
So
That's
it's like,
dope.
and initially, like the goal of it, and the goal is still the same. Like it's for locals first, no matter if it's Alaska or Seattle. So it's like to put my friends on, to give them a platform, to share music. And now I have a roster of Seattle locals that kind of are endless, which is great, which has always been the goal.
Hell yeah, man. So that kind of goes into my next thing. So our last guest, we both know, Longstocking. She was the one that was really giving you props about supporting her through her come up. And she was giving you like all the praise in the world. So I was like, man, I gotta
love her back.
Right. So I was like, yo, we gotta have you have you on too, man, because you seem like a really good dude, man. So definitely glad to have you on for sure.
I put out her first, I think, 2 or 3 releases.
Yeah.
Her very first album that crushed.
Yeah, she said that. Yeah.
Beatport in the charts. I mean, she's a great person, and I mean, she works hard.
Yeah.
She works hard.
Yeah. So let's kind of fast forward into getting bigger as a label and a DJ, because it almost seems like those things coincided
Yeah.
together. Um, so what's the next step from having like a nice roster, booking gigs locally? How did you kind of get bigger from there?
So like I think the first thing was like because when I first started the label, there wasn't really any direction. It was just like I was just putting my friends' music out. I didn't care if it was electro house, bass house, tech house. All I knew was like as long as I would play it, I'm putting it out.
Yeah,
And which was cool. I mean, and that's kind of almost still the same vision, but then it was just like, all right, let's figure out our lane and hone in and like now let's be real picky on our releases, communicate with the artist, be like, yo, this is what we're looking for. And if we're gonna put you on and I'm gonna put all my energy behind you, then like I need the same kind of energy from you.
true.
There's a lot of times where you sign someone, releases out, and
That's
they
it.
think the work is over. And I'm like, yo, like track could get hot in 2 years from now. Like you gotta just keep pushing that same track.
Yep.
So it was like figuring out the lane for the label while booking gigs, while continuing to like let people know, like, yo, like I'm Toney H and this is my label, or like this is my label and I'm the one that runs it, like
Yeah.
Toney H.
Hmm.
So like now building the roster, like pushing my friends that like have hot music to be like, yo, keep sending me music and let's build you while like you're also helping the label build because
Yeah.
like that's that's in sync right there.
Hmm.
And then while I'm booking gigs locally, I'm also playing the music and pushing that sound. So people are like, "Yo, what was that track?" I'm like, "Oh, that's from like that's not even saying my label, like that's from the label Late Night Munchies," and they from themselves like will find out like, "Oh, like you're that dude that like
Yeah.
runs that."
Smart.
Like that helped kind of that helped build a label and it also helped me build my brand because then people that I didn't even know, I would travel someone. They're like, "Oh, like you're the dude that runs Late Night Munch," or they'd see my hat. They're just like, "Oh, like do you know who runs it?" I'm like, "Oh, it's me."
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh man, like I've been listening to like some of the tracks for for the last 2 years." I'm like, "Oh, okay," and then exchange information and like build this relationship now that blooms and
Hmm.
has helped me where they're just like, "Oh, like we'll bring you out to Chicago, we'll bring you out here because like I've already known them or they know about the label." So
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's a process because it's like I'm building the artist, building the label, building my brand, and like, but they're all helping each other like at the same time.
Yeah. At the house, everything's like in sync together for sure.
Right.
For
Right.
sure. That's dope. That's dope. So from that area, you just did a day trip festival, right?
Yeah.
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 How was that?
It first of all it was amazing.
Okay.
Shout out to the day trip team and Insomniac. They probably some of the most professional people I've dealt with while playing a gig and just like how they handled everything was amazing. The stage was amazing. The lineup was unreal. I mean, to this day, I still think about it. Like, I have one of the flyers on my wall. I'm just like, man, I was a part of that. Like, that's
That's
like,
dope.
I still can't believe it. But it was great. I was nervous as hell.
Yeah.
Nervous as hell. I mean, I get nervous for most of my gigs.
Hmm.
If not probably almost all of them. But like, I think I was gonna probably throw up
Oh,
before the set. I was nervous.
what was that your biggest set to date?
Yes,
That's dope.
for sure, for sure.
Hell yeah.
But I had a great time, and out of that, I ended up the next day they booked me for the day trip closing party in LA. So now I'm going to LA next month. Yeah, next month to play the closing party.
Oh, that's fire, dog.
But I had a great time. Everyone was
Congrats.
nice.
Yeah.
I got thank you. Yeah, I got to see a lot of artists I mean, a lot of artists up close that I probably would have seen at some point, but not that
Yeah.
close.
Yeah. For sure. Sure.
But yeah, it was an amazing time.
How did it feel to get chosen to represent Seattle?
It was amazing. I mean, I was super grateful for that. I didn't take that for granted because I mean I know there's a lot of people that would have loved to be in that same position playing that set.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was great. Like it goes to show. Honestly, it goes to show like the hard work that you put in. Like that can be the result. Like you get opportunities like that. So um, I've been doing it for a long time, so it feels great to be on a stage like that and get to represent the city that I live in.
For sure. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. What's up, world? Thank you, everyone that has been tuning in and watched the first half of the interview featuring Toney H. We had to make a little cut scene because at this time the power in my whole complex went out, so I didn't have any lights. So we are back with the second part of the interview. Hope you guys enjoy. Make sure to like, subscribe, and to follow. All right, everyone, we are back. Another episode. We're probably going to do a part 2 this again. My lights went out in my whole complex, so
In the dark.
in the dark. So podcast was over, but now we are back. So we were just talking about how how Toney was representing Seattle in that the Day Trip festival a couple weeks back, and he was kind of going over that. So you want to continue with that?
Yeah, man. I mean, that day, was incredible. I mean, all my friends came out early. I had friends that drove over from Portland, flew up from LA, came
Nice.
down from Alaska. So it was sick. It was a good time. I played the second slot that day,
Okay.
and it was bumping out there. The weather was like one of our best days weather-wise in
That's good.
Seattle. So it was great, man. I had a great time. Was real nervous at first, but after a couple tracks, it can kind of settle in. But yeah, it was definitely an experience.
Yeah. Can you name some of the artists that were on the bill with you?
So it was me, Annabelle England, Simone BG, Simone's another local here that helps curate the Studio 44 nights at a
Okay.
couple different venues. Kate Tronado was on that.
Ooh,
James
okay.
Hype,
Okay.
Duke Dumont. Yeah, it was a stacked,
So the who's who were
stacked
there.
lineup
Hell yeah, that's
Yeah.
dope, man. That's dope. That's dope.
for sure.
That's actually a good lead into my next question. About being able to have the ability to, one, market yourself, and two, once you get into the situation, um, how to, mingle and jingle, shake hands and kiss babies. Can you explain?
Kiss
You know what I mean? Can you explain a little bit how you know how either that day or just in general your process of kind of networking?
Honestly, like I've always been a social person, so I'm cool with like showing up somewhere by myself and kind of just walking around, introducing myself, meeting people.
Mm-hmm.
Like with people, even like for day trip stuff, it was just like, okay, like they booked me, like probably would be a good idea to meet the crew.
Yeah.
Like let's assume that like maybe I'll play another. I mean, and I am playing another one of their parties, so it's like I got to meet people that coordinate the stage, like the
Mhm.
marketing team, the team that was like emailing me, like kind of back and forth leading up to that. So I got like their artist liaison who like brought me to my green room, brought me back.
Yeah.
I mean, all dope people. I think the big thing is like, especially for a day trip thing, it's like they have kind of rules of how they post things. So it's like, yo, like follow the guideline. Like
Mhm.
that's not hard. Make the social posts, tell your friends, get people to buy tickets and get there early.
Yeah.
And then just make yourself known once you're there. Like, yo, like I'm here now. So like who do I need to meet? Like who do I need to talk to? What artists can I meet if possible?
Mhm.
And kind of and hang out. Like, I mean, that's the big thing. A lot of times, like, at least for club gigs, like some people will show up, play their set and dip. And
And
I'm just
dip,
like, that's not it. Like
Yeah.
you got to show up a little bit early. You don't got to show up 3 hours early, but show up an hour early, hang out, kick it, like meet the promoters, meet the dancers, meet the staff,
Everyone, yeah.
and then hang out a little bit after. Like everyone's got a life, so not everyone can stay till 4 a.m. or or afters or whatever. But like
Yeah.
kick a little bit after and hang out. You tend to meet people that want to talk to you and kind of just pick your brain a little bit, after you play a set, or even sometimes even before. So
True, very true, very true.
yeah, just hang out.
So we have DJs and producers of all like levels, either like beginners, like intermediate per se, and then we'll have
Yeah.
guys that are guys and girls out there that are traveling DJs. And there's levels to this shit. There's a local level.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's a festival level, which that what you were just on, and then there's like an international level.
Yeah.
Can you let everybody know, or the people that are just below that level? Can you let them know kind of the process of like, you show up there, you say hi, you do this, you get emails leading up to it? Because when it's a local level, you show up at your time,
Right.
you do your set, you chill for a little bit, you get two drink tickets, you get $100
Yep.
or
Yep.
whatever it is,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm sure it's a little different on that scale. Can you explain a little bit of that?
Yeah, I mean, when I was starting off, I've always been the one that shows up. I mean, when I first moved to Seattle and I was like trying to get into the scene, I would show up early. Like I was like first one at the door
Yeah.
to just kick it and like meet everyone that's involved with the party. Because that's the big thing too. It's like everyone wants to DJ like every party, but the big thing is like find the crews or the parties that fit to what you want to play. Like you don't like so like you don't play drum and bass. Like if you like drum and bass and you want to go to the party, go. But if your intention is to play and you play house, like It's not going to be at the drum and bass party.
Yeah.
So like go to the parties that you are interested in, that you align with, meet those people, hang out, see what the vibe is. I feel like the biggest thing is being nice and hanging out. Like that's literally the two biggest things I can say is like don't be an ass, because that's not it. And hang out, like showing up for half hour and leaving, like you're not gonna meet nobody that way. Like that's not it. Like find out. I mean, we all got socials now. Go on Instagram, see who's tagged, see what DJs are tagged, see what promoters are tagged, what crews are tagged, see who's in those crews. Like don't be afraid to DM them and ask like, yo, like I'm new and want to hang out. Like they'll probably even give you a guest list. I've done it. Like I've had people reach out that want to come to my party. I'm like, yo, come through. We can meet and kick it. And here's a guest list spot. Like pull up.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing like that got me to where I'm at now, besides like obviously producing and DJing certain parties that like kind of elevated me to like where I'm at now, it's go hang out, meet the people. So I mean, I didn't get here by myself. Like someone helped. So like other people helped. Other people suggested things. Other people gave me feedback. So there's a lot to it to get to that next step. Always.
Definitely. So I kind of want to get into like more of the like the label stuff.
Okay.
You talked about, you know, how, you know, that came along, but I kind of want to talk about the future of it. The future of it and the sub label you have.
Okay.
First, why did you think you needed a sub label?
To be honest, I have no idea why I think we do this. Like straight up, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was like at the time, it's like I mean, even I feel like to this day, I really still. I mean, I'm happy that I have it, but like to this day, I'm just like, why did I do that? I could have just done it all in one.
Yeah.
But like, I think I just wanted to create a separate brand to be represented well. And I mean, this sub label, which is Munchies After Dark, went through a lot of phases because it like started off as like I love acid house, so I'm like, all right, this is gonna be like an all acid house label. And that didn't really work well. Like the vision wasn't really there. Then it turned into like, okay, like just straight techno.
Okay.
Which ended up working out pretty well. But then like melodic house kind of came into play and I really liked it. So I was like, all right, like now like we're in a good year or good phase of the label where it's like all melodic house and techno. There is direction, there is a vision. But it was just to give my friends another platform because like tech house and deep house were so big on the main label. I almost felt like I needed another label to highlight this other genre of music alone. So made the other label in 2019.
Okay.
So 3 years old now.
3, yep.
We've thrown a couple showcases and like the future for both labels now. I mean, the future for the sub labels to keep letting it grow because it's not quite there yet where it's like kind of self-sustained like Late Night Munchies. Like, I mean, I finished the release schedule for Late Night Munchies in March this year.
Okay.
So, like, if I can do that for the sub label, then I don't got to do nothing. Like
That'd
I'm
be
good. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. And I do everything. I do the mastering, the graphic design for it. I do all the A&R for it. So
nice.
It helped me kind of get ahead so I don't have to worry about doing that. And the future really is, I mean, we've been throwing, this year was the year that I threw the most showcases for Late Night Munchies. We threw 5 this year, and 4 in Seattle, or actually all 5 in Seattle.
Okay.
But actually no, sorry, 4 in Seattle, 1 in Detroit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, 1 was during Movement Weekend in Detroit, and then the other 4 were here in Seattle during the summer. So I think like next step for the label is like hosting a stage at a festival. That would be great to host a Late Night Munchies stage at a festival, or just larger events, just kind of keeping the brand growing, getting bigger artists to help push the brand to them. When smaller artists get signed, like there's already some juice there for them. They don't have to stress so much about their release getting kind of lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
But yeah, just bigger events. I think that's where my head's at now. It's like throwing bigger events with this and showcasing more artists on the label, which is like not common, at least not in Seattle for the most part. So I'd like to be the one that kind of runs that if I can.
Pushes that. Yeah, smart.
Yeah.
That's smart. So I know you mentioned that the like trying to bring on bigger artists so they can help promote, the upcoming artists. Do you plan on just like reaching out to them, texting them, DMing them, or you have these past relationships?
Some of them are past relationships. It's just like, I think a good thing to do, like for them, it's like the best thing for me is like to get them on to create a compilation.
Yeah.
And let them kind of just run it, and I'll put it out for them, do all the promo work, all the back end work for them. But I have some relationships like that with some artists that are bigger that I think would be down. And we already signed one thanks to Denny Longstalking.
Okay, yep. Mhm.
On her remix album, we got Kevin Knapp, we got Cosmalia,
Oh,
we got
nice.
so like the juice is there now. It's like
Yeah,
when other artists see that, they're like, oh, okay, we need to pay more attention
yeah,
to what Night Munchies is doing. So it's like it's there. It's like getting artists to like, because like now a lot of artists are just like they just want to sign with the big labels, but they also have to remember every big label was a small label at one point.
one time, yep,
So
yep.
like so you gotta like we all gotta help each other get there. So
Mhm.
that's why like when people ask me for remixes, sometimes it's a label I never even heard from, but I'm like, you know what? Like I was that label at a certain point, like when I started. So
Just do it.
it's full circle.
Yeah. So that's a good thing you just said. Um, Big label versus small label. Um, can you name some pros and cons of both? Submitting your music to
Yeah.
both.
I think, I mean, with big labels, it, it's it's a con because they don't have enough people. Like big labels, I mean, like the Dirty Birds of the world or the Repopulate Mars of the world, like they're getting God knows how many demos at a time.
Yeah.
You don't have an A&R that's like consistently looking at that, like things just get lost. And that, I mean, fair enough, right? Like you're gonna get more than you can handle.
Hmm.
Um, I'm the kind that I want to hear all the music myself. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to give that task to somebody else because like I have the vision. Unless I find someone that literally has the exact same vision as me, like which I
Yeah.
mean, 9 times out of 10 when you run a label, like that's hard because that's your baby. That's like that's your business.
Hmm.
So bigger labels, I think they sometimes miss out on smaller artists because
Hello.
they're looking for the artists that have like the SoundCloud following or the Instagram following, or already have like the Spotify like, and that's not always going to be a thing. Like sometimes you're going to find smaller artists that are lit, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like they don't have following, but they got the juice in production. So
Yeah.
you got to just put your just put your time behind them and kind of build them up to get to where you think they should be.
Yeah.
With smaller labels, bigger artists ignore the smaller labels. They're not looking at us because I mean, who wants to sign on Late Night Munchies when they could sign on on Ferris Wheel Recordings instead?
Yeah.
Where like he's throwing festivals and he's doing so like, but also like I said before, it's like, well, he started somewhere before too,
Exactly.
and now he's where he's at. So it's like same process for me. It's like my label was small, now it's growing momentum as the years have passed,
Hmm.
where bigger artists are now like, oh, like we know Toney and we know he runs Late Night Munchies, like we should probably set him some music.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger labels miss out on smaller artists more than they should, if they paid more attention. Because I mean, there's a lot of them in Seattle, a lot of them in a lot of places I've traveled, LA, Chicago, Portland. Just, they don't have that Instagram 10K following
Yeah.
that they open up the socials. They're like, oh, like who's this person? Never heard of them.
Yeah.
That sometimes those are the gems, honestly.
Do you think that is genre specific? Meaning like, how tech house right now is fucking oversaturated. House music is based the same, but that's because like a longevity thing. Um, you know, deep house and UK
Yeah.
garage and all that shit. Do you think that's across the board or just specifically in house and like tech house and techno and stuff?
I think it's specifically in house. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm fortunate enough to A&R for Space Yacht as well.
Oh, dope.
And in the bass community, like they really do be helping each other. Like
Okay. Yeah.
they really be looking out for each other. Not to say that it doesn't happen in the house community, but I've seen it a lot more in the bass community.
Yeah.
In the house community, I feel like it's more dependent on artists slash label. There was a interview that Koyu did, who runs Swara label,
Hmm.
some years ago, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. And it was an interview about why he doesn't sign smaller artists. And basically his answer was, well, sometimes the releases don't do as well. And I'm like, okay, I get it, but that's the risk you take. One, two, if I'm a small artist and I mean, for some people, I mean, Swara is a big label, and for me, like that would be a dream label to release on.
Hmm.
So if I got that release, like that would only make me want to like do
Yeah.
more
Exactly.
to keep the star rising. So I see where he's coming from, but that again, like big label missing out on small artists, like he's not, more than 9 times out of 10, he's not going to sign it because like you're a small artist.
Yeah.
Where like me, I'm like, I don't care if you got one follower or 10,000. Like if your music's hot, music's hot. Like that's where I'm at.
And who's that again?
That was Koyu from Swara label.
I gotta look that up.
Yeah, look up that interview. It's like from 3 or 4 years ago, I want to say. But like I mean, I'm a fan of his, and I
Yeah.
got to see Movement some years ago, and I saw that I was like kind of not like surprised, but like a little taken aback. Like,
Yeah,
man, you're
that's kind of
you're
crazy.
kind of missing out on some artists, and if you're like just gonna pass up on them if they don't have the following.
And that is a true, and I said, I don't know this person. I didn't see the interview, but from what you're saying, that is what's wrong with the industry, or one thing's wrong is wrong in the
Right,
industry right there.
right,
How the fuck can anyone grow, and then you're not going to give
right,
anyone a chance that's doesn't have 10,000 or 20,000
right,
viewers? That's literally fucking insane.
right. But then you have labels like Desert Hearts, who I mean, I have some relationship with Mikey Line, who's like one of the people that runs the label, but
Hmm.
like they don't see my following, or like I'm not a huge artist, and I sent them music 2 years ago, I think it was, or maybe a year ago.
Hmm.
They gave me a full EP on the label,
Oh, dope.
which is normally not common. As a new artist, they usually will put you on the compilation,
Compilation, yeah.
and then you send them more music, and then they try to like kind of build you for an EP, and like just right off the bat, they signed 3 tracks and gave me a full EP.
That's
Which I
dope.
mean, for me, like that was like a huge moment for me. I'm a big Desert Hearts fan, have been for years, and like have seen them play in multiple places. So it was like to get that, I was just like, so like then you have labels like that will take the risk on a smaller artist.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like just momentum to be like, all right, like we got to now pump out some more stuff to them and other labels like of their size.
Yeah. So you mentioned before artists sending music to labels because they're possibly doing like festivals and like
Yeah.
bigger stages. Um do you make that plan yourself, or you just kind of have a list of what labels you want to go to and you send it to people?
Kind of half and half.
Okay.
So I have like a list of like dream labels where like if I got this, I probably shit my pants. And then other
Yeah,
ones
yeah.
where I'm like, oh, okay, they throw events in LA, Seattle, and Portland. Like it'd be great to be on the label. So like when they are in town, like I probably have a good chance of playing that party.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a little half and half. Like I'm strategic in the sense of like, especially like for festival season, I'm like, all right, like these are the labels that like host stages or like have most of their artists on the lineup for this. Like probably would be good to get on that label, but at the same time too, like making sure that I align with the label, not just like on some like I'm just gonna sign with this label just cause they do festivals. It's like, well,
Yeah.
I don't even like the music. Like, why am I my music too? So
Yeah.
like a lot of research. I'm part of a
Research.
lot of blogs, and I'm always checking. Like I follow a lot of artists where I'm like, all right, they're releasing on this label that I align with. I'm like, all right, if they're releasing on this label, then like I got to get it together and like start sending music to that label too.
Yeah, that's what I tell people when because I'm just I've made music for like a year and a half now.
Okay.
Released on some pretty good labels, has some pretty good success, and sometimes people ask me like, you know, how do you reach out to labels and why do you reach out to labels? A lot of the times I just follow who I like, and then they put who they released on
Yep.
in a bio, and then I just kind of work right from there.
Yep.
And
Yep.
same with venues too.
Yep.
If I follow with somebody that played at a dope venue, I'll reach out to the venue and say blah blah. My name's Ollie Red, blah blah blah,
Yep.
and kind of go from there, because it's almost like building a relationship for the relationship was built. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Introducing yourself and letting them know who you are, what you've been doing,
Exactly.
what's getting ready to come out or what's about to happen. Yep.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's the same way I tell people when they send demos, like don't send demos with like just the SoundCloud link. Like
Yeah.
give me your name, like like name, location, tracks, releases you've had, maybe releases that are upcoming,
Yeah.
and then SoundCloud link. Because then I'm like, oh, this person's in Seattle. All right, like cool. I
Yeah.
can book up here, or if they're in Portland, I'm like, I can hit up a homie and be like, yo, this like cool like person just gave me some music and they're in Portland. You might want to check them out and book them maybe.
For sure.
Some people will just send me a link and I'm just like, what do I do with this?
For sure. For sure.
No info.
How to send an email to a label can be an
Yeah.
hour long,
Yep.
podcast, because there's many different. Actually, I think you're the third or fourth label owner in a row, and every one of them has been slightly different.
Okay.
So, but the median is minimums, name,
Yeah.
obviously, location, and
Yep.
then like a brief synopsis.
Yep.
Brief. We're not talking about like why you picked this hat
Nah.
over other hat and this drums.
Nope.
No. We're not doing that shit.
Brief.
Just keep it easy. Keep it simple.
Here's another little hack too that's kind of helped me when I send demos.
Mhm.
In the subject line. Now, in the subject line before, I would put demo submission, or like, I would probably put demo submission and I put Toney H next
Okay.
to it so they would know like it's me.
Yeah.
Now what I'm doing is I'm doing kind of the same thing, but next to my name in parentheses, I'm putting like the the top 3 labels I've released on. So
Okay.
like now I'm putting like Toney H, Desert Heart, Space Yacht, Dirty Bird.
Okay.
Just so that when they see it, they're like, okay, like if he's released on these labels, like let's like 9 times out of 10, like they end up checking out the demo. I think because of the subject line.
Yeah.
'Cause I haven't really changed my like. I usually copy and paste the same kind of. Hi, this is Toney. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. Here are some coming releases. I run these labels. Boom, SoundCloud link. Like
Yeah.
the end.
Some
But that subject line, I've learned it from this guy, Graham, who is the guy that runs data transmissions, and he puts out like you can sign up for free. Like he sends out email blasts like once a week or like twice a week, and it's just like tips if you're having trouble sending demos, tips for like producers, tips for this, like just a bunch of tips, and like that was one of them. And I was like, huh. So since I've tried it, I've had like, I mean, if I've sent 10 emails, I usually get like 7 responses, as opposed to before I was getting like 3 or 4 out of 10 probably.
Yeah.
So
so that's actually a good segment too. So as far as, cause I was having I'm in a Demure Discog
oh, okay, yeah.
chat, and I think one of the topics last night was how long to wait to resend an email
Oh,
to a different label. How long do you suggest, and how long do you usually wait?
I wait a week to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I will say, my track on Dirty Bird, it took them 3 months to respond. And in that time, I mean that was a track that I sent out to a lot of labels that like they didn't like it, which is fine. I mean, it's gonna happen. You're gonna send your stuff to people and they're not gonna like it. So I mean, I guess like like good thing that other labels didn't want it, because in those 3 months I was still sending the track out, kind of almost forgetting that I had sent it to them like Dirty Bird first. I just had waited like 3 weeks and I was like, all right, they probably don't want it. Like I'm gonna move on.
Yeah.
And then, like 2.5 months later from that point, they ended up letting me know like we actually want the track. So
That's dope.
but you know what? Like a week to 2 weeks, I think is good enough. Like I go through, I mean, my label's not getting demos like that. I mean, I get a good amount, but not like the Dirty Birds and these other guys that are probably getting hundreds a day.
Yeah.
I'd say I like every 2 days I'm going through demos at least. So like, and I'm responding to everyone, whether I want the track or not.
Yeah.
Or sometimes if the track's good, but I like don't like it that much, I'll suggest the label for them to send it to.
Yeah.
Also, if I'm having a good day.
Yeah. But that kind of goes back to what we're talking about, the pros and cons of being on a big label
Right.
or a small one, because I feel as though some tracks just need a little bit more. And then if you have a good A&R, if they see potential on the track, be like, yo, change this a little bit and then send it back to me, and then we're all good.
Yep. I've signed tracks under that same scenario where I'm just like, oh, like if this had this, like, or if you took out this vocal here, like, I would sign it. I mean, they're like, all right, like, and I usually always ask them like, hey, like, if you're down to change it, like, great. I would love to hear it after the change. And if not, like, who am I to judge like the music that you made? Like,
exactly. It's all art.
Run it the way you want to run it. If you don't want to change it, I'm like that too. Sometimes I'm like, no, I'm not changing it. Like, I like it this way.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like that.
For sure. All right, bro. So we're almost at the end of the podcast. So we have a new subject or new, segment called we just ask our fans or your fans to like submit like questions to you.
Okay.
And we have one from I don't know how to Isra Kidmore. I think his name.
Okay.
Hope I'm not saying that wrong, but he said, who would you consider your biggest influence in the game? Either from like a making music aspect, a DJing aspect, and then like a label aspect.
Label aspect, I'm gonna say I'll give you all 3.
Yeah, for sure.
Label aspect, I'll say Astronomar. He was the first. He used to run main course with a bot. And he was the first person that he saw. He lived in from Alaska, lived in Alaska, and that's how like him and I connected. But he was the first person I hit up when I was starting the label, just like asking him a million questions. I was like, yo, do you have time to answer? And he's literally like nicest dude, like gave me all the time, answered all my questions. So Astronomar would be my label. Label 1 DJ, probably Felix the House Cat.
Okay.
My first like DJ setup was the Tractor X1s with the DJM mixer, and it was because of him. Literally, I saw a video of him, like I saw multiple videos of him, like I was like, oh, I need that.
I need that joint, yeah.
And then production wise, it's like a mixture of people. It'd be like Loco Dice, the Martinez brothers, Jamie Jones, Noizu, like just like a combo of those 4 people. Maybe even like combo of like Maya Jane Cole and like Nicole Mudaber, like now Honey Love, like Honey Love's been tearing. Like I've been
Tearing
loving
up.
seeing her star rise. Like I
Hell
got
yeah.
to meet her at Black Book Party here in Seattle some months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a sweetheart, but also just ripping right now.
Hell
But
yeah.
yeah, like combo of all those artists for sure.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, man. All right, let everybody know like all your links, your personal links, your SoundCloud links, the labels, and where everyone can find you.
So my links are all at DJ Toney H507,
Okay.
minus my SoundCloud. It's DJ dash Toney H, like little line dash Toney H. The label Late Night Munchies Music on all platforms, and Munchies After Dark, same thing on all platforms. Also, starting a third label. I just submitted the first release today, actually.
There we go.
It's called Not Me Being Chaotic. It's for all my solo projects with some remixes from some friends. Launching this month, actually.
Hell
This
yeah.
month, new label. Also just look up Not Me Being Chaotic. You'll probably see me wearing the t-shirt. There'll be merch. You can go to Munchies merch store and get that. And then if you want to just see everything else, Linktree dash official Toney H.
Hell yeah.
Everything. Events, music, pictures, random
Everything.
thing.
One-stop shop.
One-stop shop.
Hell yeah, bro, man. Thank you. It was a great podcast.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.
For sure, bro. For sure. It's the end of a new episode of All House Podcast.